All right. I am live. Alistair just left, so that's where we're at. Dan was thankful to see him leave. Alistair seemed like the nicest of their competition, but he was still a competition. Dan stared at the clue again, more frustrated than ever. Resolution, fine print, Richard S. I don't get it. I can offer you no help with the clue. Mr. McIntyre managed a faint smile. I pause when I hear conversations. But your grandmother would be pleased to accept the challenge. Amy shook her head. We don't stand a chance, do we? The Cabras and Starlings are rich. Jonah Wizard is famous. The Holts are like steroid monsters. Alistair and Arena seem so, I don't know, worldly. And Dan and I have other talents, Mr. McIntyre finished, as I'm sure you'll find out. Dan reread the clue. He thought about baseball cards, letters, and autographs. So we're supposed to find this guy Richard, he decided. But why is his last name just S? Amy's eyes widened. Wait a minute. I remember reading in a book back in the 1700s, people used to do that. They would only use one letter if they wanted, so they could disguise their names. Huh? Dan said. So if I could say A has a face like a baboon butt, you wouldn't know who I'm talking about? Amy boxed him in the ear. Who's A? Amy. Ow! Children, Mr. McIntyre interrupted. You will have enough enemies without fighting each other. Besides, he checked his gold pocket watch. We don't have much time, and there is something I must tell you. Something your grandmother wanted you to know. An inside tip? Dan asked hopefully. A warning, young Master Dan. You see, all Cahills, if they know themselves to be Cahills, belong to one of the four major branches. Amy stood up straight. I remember this. Grace told me once. Dan frowned. When did she tell you that? In the library afternoon, we were talking. She didn't tell me. Maybe you weren't listening. There are four branches. The Katerina, the Janus, the Thomas, and the Lucian. Which are we? Dan asked. I don't know. Amy looked at Mr. McIntyre for help. She just mentioned the name. She wouldn't tell me what we are. I'm afraid I can't help you there, Mr. McIntyre said, but Dan could tell from his tone he was keeping something back. However, children, there is another interested party you should know about. Not one of the four Cahill branches, but a group that may make your quest more difficult. Ninjas? Dan asked excitedly. Nothing quite that safe, Mr. McIntyre said. By the way, I am also not going to read if I have books that are open. Some of you are looking through your books. You shouldn't be looking through a book and hearing me at the same time. You're not going to be able to concentrate. I can tell you very little about them. I confess I only know the name and a few unsettling stories. But you must beware of them. This was your grandmother's last warning, which she made me promise to tell you if you accepted the challenge. Beware the Madrigals. A chill went down Dan's back. He wasn't sure why. The name Madrigals just sounded evil. But Mr. McIntyre, who? My boy, the old man said. I can tell you no more. I've stretched the rules of the competition scene as much as I have. Just promise me you will trust no one. Please, for your own safety. But we don't even know where to start, Amy protested. Everyone just rushed off like they knew what to do. We need answers. Mr. McIntyre stood. He closed his leather folder. I must get back to my office. But my dear, perhaps your way of finding out is not the same as the other teams. What do you normally do when you need answers? I read a book. Amy gasped. The library. Grace's library. She raced out the great hall. Usually Dan didn't run with excitement when his sister suggested visiting a library, but this time he did. The library was next to Grace's bedroom, a big sunken parlor lined with bookshelves. Dan thought it was creepy being back here with just Amy, especially since Grace had died next door in her big 4-poster bed. He expected the rooms to be all draped in black with sheets over the furniture like you see in the movies, but the library is bright and airy and cheerful, just like it had always been. That didn't seem right to Dan. With Grace gone, the mansion should be dark and dreary. Kind of the way he felt. He stared at the leather chair by the window and remembered one time he'd been sitting there playing with a cool stone dagger he had busted out of a locked display case. You guys know what a dagger is? What is it?
It's kind of like a small sword.
Yeah, it's like a small sword.
Yeah.
So he's playing with this weapon that he broke out of her display case. Grace had come up so quietly he didn't notice her until she was standing right over him. Instead of getting mad, she knelt next to him. That dagger is from Tenochtitlan, she said. Aztec warriors used to carry this for ritual sacrifice. They would cut off parts of their enemies they believed held their fighting spirit. Do you guys know what Tenochtitlan is?
No.
I mentioned it once. Tenochtitlan is the reason why there's an eagle sitting on a cactus with a snake in its mouth on Mexican money. The Aztec Indians, when they were looking for a place to build their major city, were trying to find some sort of sign from their god that they should build it there. In the middle of Lake Texcoco, there's a lake, and sitting in the lake, on the lake, there was a cactus. And on the cactus, an eagle landed with a snake in its mouth. And they said, we're going to build our city there. So the Aztec Indians basically like drained parts of the lake and then built causeways, which are like roads that you pile up dirt. Yes. And that was their major city. And that major city eventually was conquered and became Mexico City. So that dagger was from like before Mexico City even existed. So it's super old. He broke it out of a display case and he's playing with it like it's a toy. Shouldn't she be mad for that? She hadn't told him to be careful. She hadn't gotten angry because he busted into her cabinet. She acted like his curiosity was totally normal, even admirable. No adult ever understood Dan that well. Thinking about it now, Dan felt like somebody had cut away part of his spirit. Amy started searching the library books. Dan tried to help, but he had no idea what he was looking for, and he quickly became bored. He spun the old globe with brown seas and weird colored continents, wondering if it'd make a good bowling ball. Then he noticed something he'd never seen before under the Pacific Ocean. A signature. Grace Cahill, 1964. Why did Grace autograph the world? She asked. Amy glanced over. She was a cartographer, a map maker, and an explorer. She made that globe herself. How did you know that? Amy rolled her eyes. Because I listened to her? Huh? That idea never occurred to Dan. Where'd she explore? A man's voice said, everywhere. They were in there alone, weren't they? Alistair O was leaning on his cane in the doorway, smiling at them. Your grandmother explored every continent, Dan. By the time she was 25, she could speak 6 languages fluently, handle a spear or boomerang or rifle with equal skill, and navigate almost every major city in the world. She knew my hometown of Seoul better than I did. For reasons unknown, she came back to Massachusetts to settle down. A woman of mystery was that Grace. Dan wanted to hear more about Grace's boomerang skills. That sounded sweet. But Amy stepped away from the bookcase. Her face was bright red. Noah, are you guys okay over there? Okay, because I'm going to keep stopping for you guys. Or we could just be quiet and let people do their work. Alistair, what do you want? Oh, don't let me stop you. I won't interfere. But there's nothing here, Amy mumbled. I was hoping for, I don't know, something I hadn't seen before, but I've read most of these. There really aren't that many books, and there's nothing about Richard S. My dear children, may I suggest something? We needed an alliance. Dan was immediately suspicious. Why would you want an alliance with a couple of kids? The old man chuckled. You have intelligence and youth and a fresh way of looking at things. I, on the other hand, have resources and age. I may not be one of the most famous Cahills, but I did change the world in my own way. You know my fortune comes from inventions, eh? Did you know I invented the microwavable burrito? Wow, Dan said, earth-shattering. There's no need to thank me. The point is, I have resources at my disposal, and you can't travel around the world on your own. You know, you'll need an adult chaperone. Around the world? Dan hadn't thought about that. He hadn't been allowed to go to fourth grade field trip to New York last spring because he put Mentos in his Spanish teacher's Diet Coke. The idea that this clue hunt might take the main of the world made him feel a little lightheaded. But we can't help each other, Amy said. Each team is separate. Alistair spread his hands. We can't both win, but this challenge may take weeks, perhaps months. Until the end, surely we can collaborate. We are family after all. So give us some help, Dan decided. There's nothing here about Richard S. Where do we look? Alistair tapped his cane on the floor. Grace was a secretive woman. She loved books. She loved them very much. And you're right, Amy. It does seem strange there's so few of them here. I can't read anymore because the group in the corner won't be quiet. We got to be done early.